Hi everyone, I'm Mikey from University Centre of Askham Bryan, and in this video we're going to look at the UCAS process. So what is it and what does it involve? So UCAS stands for the Universities and Colleges Admissions Service, and it is the central application service for higher education in the UK. So instead of sending applications off to all of your choices and providers, you send one application via UCAS to everywhere. It is the only method of entry to UK degree programmes. There's some exceptions with music, drama and dance conservatoires, but for pretty much all UK undergraduate courses, you have to apply through UCAS. There's a lot of choice when it comes to higher education in the UK. There's over 50,000 courses offered by 395 providers, and all of those courses and options are listed on the UCAS website, UCAS search, and you go through UCAS to apply for them. You can apply for up to 5 courses in universities or colleges, so that means you can apply for one course or one similar course to 5 different places. So if you wanted to study animal management, you could apply for animal management at 5 different places. Or if you really wanted to go to a provider, if you really wanted to go to a university or college, you could apply to one provider, one university or college for 5 of their courses. So if you really wanted to come to Askham Bryan, you could apply here for 5 of our courses. There are some restrictions on that, so if you were applying for medicine, veterinary medicine or dentistry, you can normally only use 4 of your choices for those courses and then use your 5th for something else. Then also you can only normally apply for either Cambridge or Oxford. So UCAS takes the best part of a year to go from starting an application right through to starting university or college in the September. So we look very quickly at the timeline for 2021 entry. So if you wanted to start university or college in 2021 next year, you can submit your completed UCAS application from the 6th of September this year. So you can start a UCAS application now, but you can only submit it from the 8th of September. If you're applying for medicine, dentistry, veterinary medicine, or Oxford or Cambridge, your deadline is the 15th of October, so you need to get your application submitted to UCAS by then. If you're applying for anything else, you need to get the application submitted by the 15th of January 2021 for equal consideration, so you're not penalised for late applications. If you do that, all being well, on the 6th of May 2021, if you submit by the 15th of January, providers will get their decisions back to you by the 6th of May. On the 5th of July, if you don't have any offers or any offers that you'd like to accept, you can go into clearing. And finally, on the 19th of August 2021 is A-level results day. So that's when your UCAS will change to say whether you've been accepted and you're going to university or college in September, or if you're in clearing and you might need to have a look at any vacancies still available. So that's an overview of the deadlines according to UCAS. It's important to highlight your college or school might have their own internal deadlines for the UCAS application so that they can maybe check your application and also write a reference. So although there's UCAS deadlines, make sure that you're meeting your internal deadlines as well. So that is the process in a nutshell. We'll come on to what it actually means to apply. So this is the application, and this is what you'd see when you start an application. And you can see on the left-hand side, there's a lot of tick boxes. So UCAS will require some information from you before you can submit your application to the providers and choices. So what do they ask for? First one is personal details, so contact details and especially an email address. An email address that you're going to check regularly because this is where your updates and the decisions are going to be sent to. So make sure that you've got an email address that you check regularly. Choices. So what you're applying for where, I've done a separate video on how to make that decision if you're still torn. Education, so you need to list all the qualifications that you have studied and are studying and all your schools and colleges that you have gone to. Employment, so it doesn't matter whether it's full-time, part-time, UCAS has a section where you put that information in. Personal statement, so we'll touch on this later, but arguably one of the more important parts of the application. This is where you can directly have free space to talk about you, talk about why you're passionate about what you're applying to, and talk about what you've done and your skills and who you are. There's also a reference that goes with it. This is normally written by one of your teachers or someone in school and college that knows you really well. And that's just an opportunity to say that you are who you say you are, and all the skills and qualities are backed up. They'll also ask potentially for some additional information. So if you've been part of a widening participation scheme, for instance, so if you're looking at University Centre Askham Bryan, if you've been part of Routes to Success, that would be a scheme that you can pop in there. They'll also ask if there's any mitigating circumstances, so any difficulties or challenges, barriers that you've had at the time of studying that you want the providers and institutions to know about. And finally, student finance. So institutions and providers like to know how you're planning to pay for tuition fees. So for the majority of students, that'll just be through the Students' Loans Company and student finance. So just making sure that that's all linked up and people are talking to each other. So quickly looking at the personal statement, as I mentioned, this is probably the more important part of the application. This is where you can show who you really are. This is something that admissions tutors look at in some depth, really, because they want to know that you have a passion for the subject that you're applying for. You know what you're wanting to get yourself into, that you've had a look around and you know that this is for you, and you want to stick with it and study for 2, 3, 4, 5 years of your life. They'll be looking to see that you've made some decisions, that you've really thought about it and researched, either through academically or work experience. And they'll also want to know who you are as a person and applicant, so your skills and experience, what you've done outside of school and college, and what makes you a well-rounded individual and asset for the university or college that you're applying to. So that's what they're looking for. But if we look at what is the personal statement, it's around a page of writing. It's 4,000 characters on 47 lines, so it's around a page. There's a recommendation that it's at least half academic and then half social cultural interests relating to the course. There's no right or wrong way, really, of writing a personal statement because it is free and it has to reflect you. But it's good to get a balance between the courses that you're applying for and wanting to study and what makes you a rounded individual. This is something that I'll probably repeat. It's important that you be honest and positive. It's important that you're honest with the providers that you're choosing to study with, that you're not telling any lies, but also that you're honest with yourself when you're applying as well, making sure that this personal statement reflects really who you are. A clear layout and development of ideas. So the admissions tutors that will be reading these personal statements will be reading hundreds, thousands potentially. So make sure that it has some structure so people can read it through right through to the end and not get lost and not understand just because of the way that it's written. And yeah, it might sound trivial, but making sure that you've checked for spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes, and that it can actually be read. You'd be surprised at how many grammar and spelling mistakes are made in personal statements and how off-putting it can be. You can get the message of what you're trying to say can get lost just by silly mistakes. A top tip, I've done a different video on the personal statement, but a strong paragraph will get you noticed straight away. As I mentioned, admissions tutors will be reading hundreds, thousands, so if you can give them a reason to keep going, make a strong first opener so that they'll want to know more about you. So that's the personal statement. That's your piece of writing, all about who you are and why you want to study what you're choosing to study. To go with your application, there's also the reference. Unlike a CV or job application, there's only one reference needed for your UCAS application. And depending on your circumstances, this might be a tutor or teacher, head teacher from your school or college, or it might be an employer, someone that you know really well through work or volunteering. It's important that you get someone you know academically or professionally to write your reference and not a friend or family member, because your application can get cancelled really if you do that. Communication between you and reference is key. I mentioned that it's better to ask someone that if they'll be your reference rather than just assume that they will do because of who they are, and that can get a really good relationship going and can help with this communication between you and your reference. That's important because you only have a tight space to explain all of your motivations, your passions, your interests and who you are. And so if you can keep that communication open with your reference, they can include some things that you may not have had chance or space to mention in your personal statement. So make sure that you're talking to them about what you might do outside of school or college that they might not even know. And then they can include that and reflect on that in their reference to save you space. And finally, if you can, it's great to choose a reference that you know is going to be positive towards you. But remember that they have a duty to be honest and realistic in the same way that you do in your personal statement. So although it's great to get someone positive, they also have a duty not to lie about who you are and what you've done. And so once you've done all that, you've checked your application, you'll have sent it off, and then the big wait begins. You wait for decisions to be made by the institution and provider. So that brings us on to offers. Providers, so your choices, will normally keep in touch by post, email, or both. So again, make sure that you're keeping your contact information up to date on UCAS and you're checking your email regularly. This is important because if you're applying for a choice that interviews, you'll normally be invited to an interview and all the details will be sent via post or email. Your offers will appear on track. So a lot of institutions will only list what you're actually being offered on track. They might be in touch via email or post, but only confirm it on track. There's two normally different types of offer that you might get. So a conditional offer means that you need to achieve certain entry requirements to get accepted on the place. So that may be conditional on achieving certain grades in your course. The other type of offer is unconditional. So this means that you've been offered a place regardless of what your future results in your course might be. So you will be starting in September if you choose to accept. They also might be in touch with further opportunities to visit. So if you accept an offer, you might be invited for a post-offer visit day, for example. Mentioned before, we'll mention again, it's really important at this point, once you've sent the application off, to really check your email regularly and make sure that your contact details are all up to date. So now it's back to you. After receiving all of your decisions by the providers and institutions that you've applied for, it's up to you now to make a decision on which ones you'd like to accept and which ones you'd like to decline. When you're accepting offers, you will normally decide a firm choice and an insurance choice. So your firm choice is really your first choice provider and institution, your first choice of course that you'd like to study in September, all going well. So this is one that if you meet your entry requirements if it's conditional. This is the one that you're going to go to. You'll also need to put down an insurance choice. So if you don't meet those requirements, it's kind of your backup, the one that if you don't get into your firm, your first choice, you'll automatically go to your insurance. You have some time to make these decisions, and your decision deadlines, so when you need to get them back to UCAS, depend on when you've received all of your offers from the providers. This will be listed in UCAS track, and there's multiple different deadlines depending on when all of your offers came in. So make sure that you're checking track regularly so that you know what you need to do next when. And when we're looking at which ones that you want to make, which one you want to make your firm choice and which one you want to make your insurance choice, it's recommended that your insurance choice has a lower entry requirements than your firm, just so if you slip a grade or two and you don't meet your firm, your insurance is your backup, the one that, so you've got a place that you can go on to after. UCAS will automatically update on results day, so you don't need to worry about updating maybe or putting your results into UCAS. UCAS automatically get your results and the provider decisions will be listed on it. So on results day you can check your UCAS track and that will show you the decision of the provider and see whether you have been, your conditional offer has been made unconditional and you've got the place, you've met your requirements. Also, if you haven't met your requirements of either your firm or insurance, you go into something called clearing. Now, clearing is where you put if you don't have any offers or any that you'd like to accept. You'll know that you're in clearing either because UCAS track on results day will say you are in clearing, or you've put yourself into clearing by saying that you don't want to go anywhere, that you don't want to go to your firm or insurance. I want to go into clearing. So what does clearing mean? Clearing opens on the 5th of July, so a bit before results day, and will continue to be open through until October. And you can use clearing, as I mentioned, if you're applying after the 30th of June. So this is when applications to be considered by universities and colleges sort of close, and then all of them are just pooled into clearing. You are in clearing if you don't receive any offers or any that you wanted to accept, so you've declined them all. Also, as I mentioned, if you don't meet any of the conditions of your offers, so if you had a conditional offer and you didn't meet them, you'd be put into clearing. Also, as I mentioned, if you decline your places, so if you don't want to go to your firm insurance and you decline your place, you'll be put into clearing. This is something that UCAS are trying for this year, 2020 entry, and it like clearing, it offers a bit of a different take on clearing and looking for places, and UCAS will actually now match you with an individual list of courses that they think you will be interested in based on what you applied for, but also ones that you would be eligible for based on what you have achieved. You will then go through this list and tick, say, yes, I'm interested in that, no, I'm not interested in that, yes, I'm interested in that. And then the provider will get a list of who've said they're interested in their courses in clearing, and then the provider, if they've still got spaces, will apply and will contact you to have a little chat about clearing. Just a point, if you are going into clearing, maybe this year, if you're looking at this video and potentially going into or think you might be going into clearing, make sure that you're updating student finance with any changes as well. It might be there in the back of your head, but make sure that you are keeping in touch with student finance so they know where you're studying and what you're studying, because it might affect how much you are eligible for. Just a final point on clearing I really want to get across is don't panic if you are going into clearing or are in clearing. There's plenty of spaces and plenty of students do this every year. People know what they're doing in clearing, and there's so many people to advise you and help you out if you are in clearing. So try not to panic if you do find yourself there. So finally, some top tips from me. Do your research when you're applying. So when you're making your decisions on what you want to study, where you want to study, I made a separate video on this, but try to visit the places if you can and try to get that gut feeling to see whether you would be happy spending 2, 3, 4, 5 years off your place studying here, but also in the city, the town that you'll be living in. Try to speak to current students as well, because sometimes they'll give you a different perspective that staff members can't give you. Check, and check some more. So UCAS applications can be quite difficult to amend after they've been submitted and sent to providers, and this is especially true for the personal statement. So make sure that you have checked for spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes, any mistakes at all, and make sure that your contact details are up to date as well, because it can be difficult to amend. Set yourself and meet deadlines. So treat your UCAS application like you would a piece of coursework or an essay. Make sure that you're sticking to internal deadlines, but try to set yourself a deadline even sooner so that you're not panicking, you're not rushing. This is one of the worst things that you can do, would be to rush your UCAS application, your personal statement, because that's where mistakes will lie. If you can, be available on results day. If you're going on holiday, let people know. But other than that, try to be available. Have your phone on you. In case you do go into clearing, people want to talk to you directly, because they'll want to have a chat about what your choices are, what you want to do, where you want to be, and what your passion and motivation is. And they can only get that from you, so make sure that you're available. Finally, probably most importantly, make the best decision for you. Be honest with the providers and institutions that you're choosing, but also be honest with yourself. Make sure that you're choosing institutions and courses because it's what you want to do, what you're passionate about and interested in, and not your friends, family, or your dog. It'll be you that's spending 2, 3, 4, 5 years of your life studying and living somewhere. So you need to be happy at the end of the day that you're making the best decision for you. That's all from me in this video. If you have any questions at all about anything that I've covered about the UCAS process, feel free to stick me an email at inquiries@askham-bryan. Also, if you've got 2 minutes spare, we'd really appreciate your feedback on this video. So if you run a phone camera over that little QR code or put that bit.ly into a browser, it'll take you to a quick form, and we'd just love to know what we've done well in this video, what we could do better in the video, and if there's any other subjects that you'd like us to cover and help you out with. Until next time, thank you very much for watching, and see